Welcome to this edition of Theological Journals with Bibliotheca Sacra, Creeds, Canons, Councils, and Contest over Tradition, Part 2 of 4 parts on the sources of authority for teaching Christian doctrine by Douglas Sweeney, Professor of Divinity at Beeson Divinity School. He's been retracing the tours of creeds and confessions. By the late 4th century, unanimity was near. Athanasius of Alexandria, the once again, on again, off again controversial bishop and opponent of the Arians, circulated an Easter letter in C. 367 in which he specified the very 27 books later ruled the New Testament canon. Quote, "These are fountains of salvation," close quote, the bishop told his people, "that they who thirst may be satisfied with the living words they contain. And these alone is proclaimed the doctrine of godliness, that no man add to these, neither let him take anything from these," closed quote, from his letter, festal letter, Easter letter. Several major church councils then adjudicated the canon, most importantly in Rome and Carthage in 382 and 397, respectively, sanctioning the 27 books of Athanasius. It's important to recognize that the pre-existent canon had already been recognized as authoritative. The clergy in the East received the canon more slowly. They were less inclined than the Westerners to dogmatize decrees of non-ecumenical councils. And the New Testament canon of the Orthodox in Syria, Armenia, Ethiopia, Egypt, and Georgia had minor variations. By the late 5th century, though, an overwhelming majority of believers, East and West, embraced the same New Testament. At the Quinisext Council held in Constantinople, why doesn't he just say 6th? The Quinisext Council of 692, moreover, Eastern bishops stamped the approval with the canon with approval. In the providence of God and the power of the Spirit, the traditions by means of which the apostolic teaching shaped the faith, hope, and love of ancient followers of Jesus yielded a stable set of scriptures by the time of the decline of the ancient Roman Empire in the long 5th century, the city of Rome. I'll have to interject here that Dr. Richard Gaffney's lectures on the New Testament canon is better than this. Most Christians now agreed that the canon was the main source of Christian faith and doctrine, the ultimate authority in ecclesial disputes, and the most reliable handbook of the teaching of the prophets. This did not put an end to their diversity of thought, however. They continued to debate the way the Spirit had presided over Scripture's canonization, the relative authority of extra-biblical customs in the church, the place of bishops, councils, and the faithful in discerning what the Spirit says in Scripture, and the best ways to transmit the elements of Scripture not codified in ancient Christian traditions. Not entirely pleased with that, but we move on to modern Reformation. The September-October edition, Science, Religion, and the 19th Century Protestantism by Dr. James Unguranu, as he has taken up part of his exposition on the latitudinarians in the school of the Cambridge Platonists across 17th century England. Not predominantly, but as a stream. The latitudinarians considered their rational theology both defense against atheism and a deliberate attempt at integrating the new science with traditional religious thought. Increasing mechanization of nature during the 18th century provided new visions of God and concomitantly new physico-theological treatises. Writers such as Walter Charleston, 1619 to 1705, Robert Boyle, 1627 to 1691, John Ray, 1627 to 1705, Isaac Barrow, 1630 to 1677, Christopher Wren, the great architect, 1632 to 1723, Robert Hooke, I'll skip some of those, Richard Bentley, Isaac Newton of interest, 1642 to 1727, Samuel Clarke, William Whiston, William Durham, and many others believed the new natural philosophy could be used in defense of Christianity. However, as with the Cambridge Platonists and the latitudinarians, these English virtuosi sought to demonstrate not only how God has revealed himself in nature, but also how a more rational Protestantism provided an atmosphere more conducive to the sciences. It is important to point out that the emphasis on reason and nature shifted the focus of religion away from sin, grace, and redemption. Reason and nature thus came to overshadow revelation in many respects. True then, true now. But the rational theology of the Cambridge Platonists, latitudinarian divines, and English physical theologians would eventually undermine the very reasonableness of Orthodox Christianity itself. Indeed, English rational theology of the 17th century laid the foundations of the deistic critique of revelation in the 18th century. Well, I'll have to call to an end. I think it's my postmaster.